Hey everyone! We're back with another interview. I'm sure I've posted a couple in 2021, but this is the first that we've recorded in the new year. Let it not be cursed. So today we have Caesar, the author of Trail Mix.
Hi.
Let me just read the description for you guys. In a world where a fruit can not only make you beautiful, but also extremely dependent, a dangerous substance emerges from it. Two unlikely, rather annoying friends, find themselves dragged into the criminal narcotics case by a cowboy detective. So that's Trail Mix. Yeah.
I think, okay, for like synopsis and descriptions, I asked my friend to write this for me because sometimes it's really hard to write one when you're too deep into your own series and you know everything about it. And I really need to change it, but that's basically what it is.
I agree with, I've had so much trouble trying to describe my series in like videos or like just my description because I know what's gonna happen and I know what's interesting about it, but it hasn't happened yet, so I'm just like, they're sisters, yay!
They're sisters!
Yeah. I was really excited when I got a DM from you because I checked out your story. I love the art. The art is really great. It's very exciting, and I love all the fruit stuff and the fruit aesthetics too. And I'm excited to talk about a couple of things that frankly I haven't talked about in any of the other interviews yet, and I probably won't get to talk about in any of the interviews I have lined up for this month. Like being young.
Being young and having a webtoon.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of people my age that always come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you're like my age and you have a webtoon. How'd you do it?" And I'm just like, I just have too much free time on my hands and it's a lot of work.
Honestly, same. I mean, technically I am young, but you are young. I mean, not
younger.
Younger. Not like, actually, you're secretly a baby.
Excuse me?
You're secretly 2 years old.
Yeah.
Everyone should be very jealous. I'm sure you were as good as art when you were 2 years old as Caesar here. But, yeah, so when did you first get into art?
Okay, I got into art, like, when I was in first grade. I played this game called Animal Jam, and, I really liked their designs for like animals. So I basically grew up drawing animals for the first 4 years of my elementary school career. And I was very heavily into animals, but then like 6th, 7th grade, I started drawing more humans. And then I just took it seriously when I got into like 7th grade because I was like, I'm going to make a career out of this. I'm going to do something with this.
What do you mean by take it seriously?
Okay, so like usually you start off like just drawing it as a hobby, and then taking it seriously is when you start studying and trying to actively improve your skills and not just drawing for fun.
So you started to take it seriously pretty early. I didn't start until my junior year of high school.
Yeah, I think that's fine because a lot of artists or a lot of really popular artists you see now, they didn't start their careers or taking art seriously or even their art careers until they got into their 20s or 30s. So I just think that like, I might get a little deep here, but when you're in high school and in school, basically, they always have a pressure for you to move quickly. They want you to just figure out everything you have by the time you're 18. And it's just very fast paced in the society we live in now. So I think that was a big factor of why I started taking it so seriously. But in all honesty, if you're not taking it seriously now, that's okay. Just do what you want to do. And if you decide to pick it up later, then go ahead. There shouldn't be any pressure to start something so early and take it very seriously at a young age.
I'm curious if the internet played a role in that too, because when I was in the 7th grade, yeah, we had YouTubers and stuff. I'm not that old, but really there were just very basic videos on how to do art on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I think that plays a big part as well because I see a lot of people that are like that used to be my age and have a better skill and understanding than I did at that age as well. And yeah, it's just you have all the resources in the world to get started and improve in art. And I think we're very fortunate to have that. But at the same time, people take art too seriously, especially on social media, where they focus too much on numbers and you get burned out quickly because of that.
What's it like being someone who's like pretty solidly in Gen Z and being an artist? Because like most of the people that I talk to are, I would say they're millennials, or they're like basically my age, is where I'm like, I'm in the middle because I'm like not technically a millennial. I'm technically Gen Z, but I don't feel 100% like in either group. But like,
Right.
Tell me about Gen Z, about the generation.
So I think my comic appeals a lot to people in my generation because I'm speaking their language. But I'm trying to think because my age does affect how I run my comic and how I just do things in general. Maintaining a balance for like school and comic, I try to balance it out as much as I can. I always try to make time for what I like to do and then make time for what I need to do and stuff like that. Like I went into junior year having my comic in mind and making sure that I had classes that weren't too rigorous, but rigorous enough to where it looks good for for the future. Whenever someone my age, high school age, comes up to me and asks if they should do a webtoon, I'm like, yeah, but warning, you need to plan like not too much, but enough. And you need to make sure that you have enough time for balancing school as well. And a lot of the people that come up to me and ask, they're like, oh, I have no time in my school schedule. And I'm just like, yeah, I think you should just plan for high school and then do it later on when you have more time, like in college.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think a lot of people understand how time consuming actually making a webtoon is.
It makes me so upset when people are like, oh, this episode's too short. And I'm just like, dude, this took me like hours to make.
Or like I have this work tracker and I didn't use it every week of 2020 that I was working on my webtoon. There were a couple weeks I forgot to use it. But according to it, I worked like 430 hours, and I would probably add maybe a couple hundred more hours to that because I started using it in, I guess, July or June, and I started the webtoon in like March, and then there were a couple of weeks where I just straight up didn't use it. It's a lot of work.
It is.
How supportive of an environment do you feel like you've been in for your art?
Well, okay, so my friends are super supportive. I love them. But when it came to like family and stuff, at first when I was younger and I was like, I want to be an artist, they were very iffy on it. And they're like, why don't you just become a doctor or like, something high paying, because they don't think art is a suitable enough, like a sustainable career for the future. And I'm just like, I did more research into it to rebuttal them. And I was like, there's so many jobs out there. You can't possibly compare sustainability and stuff like that. Yeah, it can seem like an unstable job, but you can definitely make a living off of it. And so now my parents are more, they're like more supportive, but they don't know everything I do because I'm just like, yeah, they're not going to see this comic until I leave the house or anything like that.
So jumping back to like, well, I guess we talked about this before the interview, actually. Do you have any media that you feel like had a major impact on you or your art or your storytelling that
yes,
you saw when
definitely.
you were growing up?
I think consuming specific media for the story you want to tell is very important, but also stepping out of that sometimes. So, and my media I consume continues to impact how I analyze my own work and how I analyze other people's work. So things like Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, Mob Psycho 100, even stupid shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or NBC's Hannibal, as well, and games like Night in the Woods. All this media I intake and then I apply it to my work. Like I took Night in the Woods, very informal dialogue, and I found that like very very like human like. What I find a lot in comics and stuff, they talk as if they're telling a story more than they're talking like people. So I tried to do it to where they're talking more like people, which is very informal. There's not a lot of, a lot of big words, stuff like that. And for JoJo's, I read Araki's book on how to make manga.
Oh my
and
God.
It's very insightful.
I literally have it on my desk right in front of me.
It's so useful.
It's great.
It's so useful. And I indulge in a lot of stories where they focus more on character building rather than world building. Because what I notice is that people stay for the characters more than they stay for the concept or world. And so in Hirokoshi's book, he's basically like, okay, if your world building's weak, make sure you have really strong characters. If all of that is weak, make sure you have really good art, but never focus solely on like the plot, basically. And so that's why I find it so hard to describe my own comic, and because I don't focus on the world as much, and I have tried to summarize it in like 2 sentences, and it's really good to have a story where you can summarize in like less than a sentence or a sentence. But I've had trouble with that because I focus a lot on characters, and I want people to like the characters and focus more on that than the concept.
Yeah, totally same. By chance, do you use the character sheets on there?
No. I tried, and I was just like, that's not my thing.
What I did is I took what I liked from it, and then I just made like a template. And then I don't fill them out before I start writing. I fill them out as I'm writing. Mm-hmm. So I can like Control F, find information that I already wrote on the character sheets so I don't forget. But it's a very good book. If you guys haven't seen it or heard of it, you should definitely go buy it and check
insightful.
It out. Yeah, very. So could you talk a little bit about maintaining balance between school and Webtoon?
Okay, so like half the time, school is like my work environment. That's when I get into work mode, and then I go home and I do nothing. But I usually just try to work on my comic every time I have free time, whether it be script writing, whether it be concept building, whether it be or character building, or like even working on it alone. Because I have an iPad and I bring it to school, and I just work on it whenever I have free time. But I have this pretty, it's not unhealthy, but it's getting there, and it can be, where I'm like, I always have to be productive on my comics somehow, some way. So, which is not always a good thing to do, but you have to get things done. But so when I'm at school, I usually script write, and so maintaining the balance, I have sectioned off hours in my head where I'm like, okay, this hour I'm going to finish my homework or finish all my work, and then I'm going to work on it. Or like I take breaks in between my work to work on it.
I don't know. For me, I don't think this is the case for most people, but I was always taking so many AP classes. High school actually ended up way, way busier than college. It was very hectic. So props to you for keeping up with all of that. It can be a lot of work.
Yeah, like I said, I planned out my junior year according to what I knew I could take on. So like I have like maybe two or three classes where I know the workload's not a lot, mm-hmm. and then I'm taking 3 AP classes. But I still manage to balance it out, and I think that's a problem a lot of people have, is maintaining fun time and then work time when it comes to school. And I think that's what you basically find out and figure out in school, and sometimes you just don't.
Yeah. Any thoughts on... I just want to hear what it's like from someone who's actually sort of in that time period. Just thoughts about thinking about the future, sort of like the unknown.
Okay, so unlike a lot of my peers, I started thinking about college when I was in 7th grade, because I want to get out of here. I started thinking about college in 7th grade, and then I stopped for a bit. But I find it really annoying how there's like hyper focus on like college prep and stuff like that. So basically, I have a sense of direction where I want to go. I know I want to do something in art, and I'm praying that that doesn't change. But I have other interests as well. But for the most part, I think it's really hard people my age to find something they like, and there's so much pressure to just find something before you turn 18 so then you can do it in college, or else you go to college and then you end up switching majors and then you end up with a lot of debt. And that is what I'm so scared of, just a lot of debt.
Yeah.
So I like try to figure out before then, but it's not the case like that for everyone, and I find that sucks.
Yeah. On the bright side, I think it's a really good thing that you know about all of the debt and stuff beforehand. What I found with people my age, and I don't know if it's because of like just people being more open about talking about this on the internet, but it wasn't really until the end of the last semester of college, I mean not of college, of high school, literally the week before there's like a big day at the end of high school where you have to declare what school you're going to by, but it's more of like an informal thing. Mm. It wasn't until like the week before that I realized how expensive all of the schools that I applied to were, and I could only afford to go to 2 of the almost 10 schools that I had applied to.
Oh, jeez.
So that got me in a not so great position, and it would have probably been helpful to apply to more schools that I could actually afford. And I tried to transfer, and that's a whole ordeal. So it's one of those things where, yes, you can change if you mess it up, but if you can get it right the first time, you can save yourself a lot of trouble.
Like the biggest tip I've heard so far, and the one that I'm probably going to do, is like taking community college to get your basics out of the way and then transferring.
Yes.
And it can also save you a lot of money. So
yeah, people can be like, I'm getting kind of sidetracked. Sorry, people listening to the interview. But people can be really judgmental towards community college people. Right. And I found going to my school that they're really just as smart, maybe even a little bit smarter for saving all of that money. And then you graduate at the end from whatever 4-year you end up going to with the exact same degree, just significantly less debt. Like, it's super underrated.
Right. That reminds me of another thing. I try to tell people my age that all the work you're doing, you're probably going to get into the same college as the frat boy that's not doing as much work as you are. So I feel like you should also try to have fun in your high school years, because most likely you're going to go to college with someone that did like absolutely nothing in school, but they still somehow made it there.
Yeah. Wink, wink, money.
Right. It comes down to money when you're in the American school systems.
Yeah. So. Like that one girl who's, I guess she's not a girl, she's my age. That one young woman whose mother went to prison because she paid to fake her being on the sports team so she could get in. Yeah. Yep. So, back to Webtoon.
Yeah, I have been on Webtoon for a long. Like, I had a series before I did Trail Mix, and I made that in like 8th grade, and I had 12 episodes up, and then I accidentally deleted it and had no backup files.
Oh my gosh.
It was so painful. I was like, no, I was just trying to check the statistics, not click the delete button.
That actually happened to you? I have nightmares about that. Because they're like, they're right. Oh, Webtoon, if you were right listening, next to each change this.
Please. But I feel like I'm also to blame because my fingers were too trigger happy, and I was like, oh, the delete button? Oops, just clicked OK. Yeah, I've been around since I think I Love You just became an original. Lore Olympus wasn't original yet. And I feel like Webtoon is very reader friendly, and I'm comparing it to Tapas now because I remember talking about this. Tapas is very creator friendly. Tapas had the whole scheduling thing, and like more files being able to upload before Webtoon did. Webtoon, you used to like only be able to upload JPEGs and JPEGs only, and that was always so annoying to me because it would just make my quality terrible. And it's a lot more reader friendly, but they're slowly becoming equal in terms of reader and creator friendly because they recently added the scheduling thing. And when I found that out, I was like happy but also mad because I for forever.
Yeah.
It's become a lot more better for smaller creators.
That was something when I started last year that I was really surprised that they didn't have, because it seems like such a basic feature. They only got it, for people listening in the future, they only got it a couple of months ago at the end of 2020.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. Next, I'm hoping they're going to allow you to reorder episodes, because sometimes
that would be so good.
Yeah.
Or like section them out, because I don't like it when my what's it called, uploading stuff is just right in the middle of like 3 episodes. Like I did a character poll recently, and it's just sandwiched between an episode, like 2 episodes.
Yeah, like I'd love to have some way to have my collab episodes separated out, because I have a bunch next to each other because I signed up for too many at once. I have a whole video about that if you guys want to watch that after this interview. I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
Amazing.
But, or it would be nice to be able to just upload like announcements and then keep them in announcement section. Like I went back and I deleted some of mine that are old, but Tapas has that?
Yeah, Tapas has a section where creators can just upload like a blog post or something like that. And also Tapas has like a forums where other creators can talk to each other. And I really wish Webtoon had that, because it would just connect so many more people together.
I have mixed thoughts about the forums, because part of me wants actual forums, and then part of me is like, oh no, there would be so much drama.
Really?
Oh, I totally feel like that. Maybe it's probably just me being paranoid, because I used to do like song covers, and we actually did like Google Plus like forums, which sounds really yeah. But there was so much drama. But it might have just been the fact that I was hanging out around singing people. So could you talk more about what the platform was like in 2017, because I feel like it's changed a lot rather quickly, but that could just be me. I have no idea.
I feel like the interface is mostly the same. There was a lot more promoting of originals than there was Canvas. A lot of things have honestly stayed the same. They just made it more sleek and minimalistic. I couldn't find like as many Webtoon creators as I can now. Like I didn't talk to anyone that made comics, but now I talk to a lot of people. So I think them promoting Canvas more, like it used to be called Discover, but now they call it Canvas. And I think that's was like the big shift when a lot of people started making their own comics and then started reaching out more. And I remember there was like no videos on how to make anything, and I had to figure out everything on my own. There was no like Webtoon creators making YouTube videos. There was no like, the supplementary videos that they give on the front page of Canvas on how to make comics. Yeah, there was none of that. And there was like no CROPPY as well, because CROPPY is such a beautiful tool.
Oh my gosh.
I wish Webtoon promoted it, because it's so useful. And I had to, when I was younger, I was like trying to figure out how to crop things, but it would always be wonky because I didn't know how to crop it. But yeah, I think it's become a lot more accessible and easier to make comics. That's like the big change on the platform.
I want to know what it was like trying to figure that out, because I can't even imagine trying to figure out how to splice the pages without having a proper answer on Google.
It was so frustrating, and I was like, are you kidding me? I only used Metabang back then, and so I didn't like have Photoshop where it could splice it, but you would just have to like toy around with it for a bit. Yeah, I like made separate canvases in the size that they required, and then I copied and pasted on each canvas. And it was really frustrating because sometimes it wouldn't line up and then I would have to do it all over again. So maybe I just like took the hard way, and maybe CROPPY did exist, but it wasn't talked about as much. Like I said, I had no one else that made comics to talk about, to talk to. Oh my gosh.
Even now, like I still talk to people, well, not recently, but I've talked to people in 2020 who manually crop their panels, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Why didn't you just do CROPPY? And they're like, what's CROPPY? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a crime that you don't know about this.
Yeah, I found out CROPPY because I saw another Instagram artist making webtoons, and I was like, oh, how do you crop your panels? I'm having a lot of trouble. And they're just like, oh, I just use CROPPY. And I'm like, what's that? Yeah, that's how I found it out. But it's so useful. I recommend it 100%. And yeah.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you have Clip Studio Paint in their latest update, I also have a video about this. I actually don't talk about how to do this in my video, which is kind of a major oversight. But Clip Studio Paint, you can also now have it auto splice for you when you export, which is great.
Yeah, like Clip Studio really looked into their audience and like the people that use their program, and they were like, yeah, let's cater to the webtoon artists because they've been using our program for a really long time. So
yeah, reading the Korean series, which I like to do a lot, no matter what site that you read them on, I can go through them, and most of them, I'll look at a panel and be like, I have that brush too. I have that asset. I have that random sparkly thing. I have that same like shirt pattern.
Right, all of them use Clip Studio because it's so much better than Photoshop, and I can go on about how much I do not like Photoshop.
Oh, you can.
Okay,
let's hear it.
Well, Photoshop, I hate how it's an industry standard because like they're so stubborn to change, and it's so overpriced. Every month you have to pay a shit ton of money for it, and I'm just like, I've toyed around with it like for a year in class, and I'm just like, this is so frustrating to use. There's definitely a huge learning curve, and there's some things that you can do on Photoshop specifically, and not like Clip Studio or anywhere else. But these other competitors are catching up on on Photoshop. I'm just waiting for Clip Studio to be more socially accepted in like the art industry, big boys, where it's like okay to use Clip Studio because there's so many features on Clip Studio, and it's a lot easier to use than Photoshop. And Photoshop isn't solely an illustration program, which is why I have so much trouble, like so many grievances with it, because I'm just like, who thought of the idea to start illustrating on Photoshop when it literally says Photoshop, you shop photos?
From what I've heard, because I got super deep into like concept art for a while when I was in high school. I actually wanted to be a concept artist for a while, but it sounded like people were experimenting with it to do concept art, and then they started drawing it to do that. But I don't know the history of the whole internet. That's just from what I've heard.
That's
just looking
interesting.
for a faster way, because you can photo bash and stuff in there too.
Right.
Da-da-dum. So,
but I really feel like Clip Studio should be more considered in the higher ups to be used rather than Photoshop, because it makes me so angry.
The one-time payment makes a huge difference too.
Right.
Like, I had to buy the entire Creative Cloud for college, and I got that huge discount that you get, and it was still, like, at the end of the day, a significant portion of my debt to buy it for 4 years. Like, it was... Or I have After Effects right now without the student discount, like, just After Effects, and it's like $30 a month. I'm thinking about getting rid of it. But I love After Effects. And there's no good replacement.
Yeah, it is. I remember when they started requiring you to buy all of Creative Cloud, and I'm just like, what's the point? I'm not going to use half of this. I'm just using Photoshop and maybe Adobe Illustrator sometimes.
Yeah. We really only used Photoshop and After Effects in college, from what I remember. I didn't even take a class that made me learn Illustrator, so I don't know how to use Illustrator. So another thing really quickly before I forget that I'm interested in hearing about is you started doing Webtoon before the pandemic. Most of the people I've talked to have actually started during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's really cool to me because a lot of people were just like, I have so much free time, I'm gonna start a comic that I've been planning for a long time. Like one of my closest friends, her name is Indigo, and her series is called Eden's Garden, and she started during the pandemic, and she randomly reached out to me, and I was like, oh yeah, we both create comics, but yeah, I created it I'm trying to think. I've been working on trail mix for like 2 years now, but the concept came up back in 2019 March, and that's when I started planning, and it used to be a lot different than it was now. I mean, what is the difference between starting a comic now and then starting it before pandemic?
I'm not sure. I was just wondering because I feel like, because I don't actually know, because I did start during the pandemic. Was there like an influx of people or something?
There definitely was. Like, there was always a steady amount of people creating more comics, but then there was just an influx when people had a lot more free time. So, like, a lot of series blew up as well because people had more time to read, and I don't know. It's nice seeing the community grow.
Let's talk about collaboration. So do you want to just explain to everyone like how you collaborate with your webtoon?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually started out, so it was just me and like three other friends working on Trail Mix at first, because it was like Trail Mix was just a thing for fun that we were going to do with our characters. And so I had one person, or no, I was like the main artist, and then one person also helped me with coloring, and the rest were writers. And our process is really chaotic because we're friends. I summarize basically what I want to happen in a script or episode, and then they write the entire script with the dialogue and everything, and then I edit a bit, and then they edit a bit, and then I start drawing it. So I think working with writers is a really good thing because it keeps you on track, and you have someone else to talk about it with, and also someone to like motivate you, basically. Because that was my main problem when I had my first series. No one was like there for me to talk about my comic with, or like there to motivate me. So I think definitely having either like a beta reader or someone to help you out with the writing is a really good thing. And also it's nice to keep everything concise and consistent with your comic, because you know the art may be terrible, the characters may not be the greatest, but if you have a good enough story and it's consistent, then I think, like, look at examples of One Punch Man and Mob Psycho. The story is amazing and the art is not the greatest, but that's okay because the story backs it up. So I think that's something that writers provide when you have a writer.
100%. I should point out to the audience that One Punch Man did not start out looking like it currently does. It originally started as, I believe, a webcomic.
Yeah, both Mob Psycho.
Yeah.
Both of them were webcomics. And then as it got popular, it got redrawn. One Punch Man got redrawn. Mob Psycho is still that cute little style I love. It's there's something with it that it
works for it so well, though. Yeah, like it's just beautiful. And then when they brought it into animation too, and all the beautiful colors, it's just
Bones really blew it out of the water.
Yeah. Why would an artist might consider working with a writer?
Like I said, you can have pretty good art, but your writing's not the best. And I think I have a lot of people that come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I really want to start a comic, but like my I don't have good writing skills." So if you collaborate with someone, you have someone to talk about the story you want to write with, and also like just have good writing as well, because that that comes with making comics, because the writing has to be good as well. And I think there's definitely an emphasis on good writing.
What kind of person would you recommend looking for in a writer then?
Like I said, just someone that has all the necessary tools, and all they need is just to make sure that their writing is good. I think that's someone I would recommend a writer to. But honestly, I didn't meet my writers on like formal terms and just being like, you're going to be my writer. It just ended up happening.
Were you friends with them beforehand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's your least favorite part of working with other people, working with writers?
I think when it's multiple writers, there can definitely be a little bit of conflict. But with writing styles, so I suggest only having one writer and not a lot. And also, when you're working on something with a friend, that may affect your friendship to an extent where you're kind of trying to make something. It's like, the things with like friends and business don't mix.
Yeah.
I think it's a really rare chance for you to like to work with someone that has the same like vision that you want to have. So there's that's an obstacle. And like I said, I had 3 people working on Tromics with me, and now I'm down to just me and Kale, which is my writer right now. And nothing really happened. There was no falling out, but you need to like make sure before you start working on something, you have to like make sure that, okay, if something happens between us, like our friendship, that or something like that, then we're gonna like make sure this part of the story still stays, and work everything out before you start.
That definitely sounds like a good idea. And I'm gonna add in, I haven't had this experience, but from what I've talked to, from the professors I talked to when I did take screenwriting in college, if you plan on having any financial side, you want to work that out ahead. But like, I had a professor in college who worked with another screenwriter to do, it was either a show or it was like a TV movie for Disney, but I'm not even going to say what it was because it wasn't memorable enough that I even remember what it was. But he did do one for Disney TV. And they didn't agree beforehand on who was going to get credited as the primary writer or if they were going to be equally credited. And I don't know if you know this, but in films, the credits are super important because that is how they do pay scale ranking. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the list of like writers, in what order the writers appear in really matters because that shows how much money they're making. And I think it's similar for acting, which is why you might see someone who's in like a secondary role come up first because they got paid more because they were a bigger actor. When you look at the film credits, if I remember correctly. But you want to make sure that you have all that written out in writing beforehand, especially if you plan on doing something that involves money. But yeah. So that's the end of my little lecture. What's your favorite part of working with writers?
Like I said, it's just having someone that has like a similar vision to you and wants to tell us the story that you want to tell as well. And also just having someone to make sure you're on top of your things is a big part. Like sometimes my writer will be like, "Hey, don't you have something to work on?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have a story." And I also forget a lot of the time that our story is public and people are reading it and perceiving it.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about your relationship with your audience on that hand then. What's that like?
I like to have a very friend-like relationship with my audience. I try to I respond to some comments sometimes, and a lot of it's just playful banter and stuff like that. Like I think having a relationship with your audience is certainly something that people will come back for. And And so I don't know. I just talk to random people as if I've known them for a long time.
So, next section. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about your series. So something I noticed in your series is that you do experiment with the style quite a bit. Could you talk about that?
Okay. Honestly, a lot of people say they really like it, but to me, I'm like, why did I come up with something more consistent when I started? But honestly, I think the only reason I started experimenting more with my style is because I saw the comic, what's it called, Fluidium, have a bunch of different artists work on it, and the style was never like one person working on it. So I was like, okay, if they can do that, then I'm allowed to do that. And also, I worked on it during school, and I still pretty flexible on my style because I think being consistent is overrated, and I think you should just go ahead and just not worry about consistency for the most part. But I was also like trying out a bunch of things to improve my art, and now I think I have like a pretty firm stance of what I want to do. But for a while, it was just switching up a lot, and I was like trying to figure out, okay, does this save more time? Like, you know, what should I subtract or add in to make the art look better and also save me time?
I see. I started nodding, and then I remembered that no one could see. But so yeah. And then I want to learn more about how you guys approach your characters, because I find them, like, you talked about this a little bit before, because you were talking about like the importance of characters and Jojo, but they all feel like so fun and so like well defined. So I just like to learn more about your process with that.
Okay, so I think I've talked about this on a Q&A I did a really long time ago, but for characters, you have to take a part of yourself and put it into the character to be invested. I think that's a pretty big part of it. And also, I also try to make them more human. So I work off like a trope, and then I totally like diverge from the trope. So, like Cowboy, for instance, he's a character, and yes, his name is Cowboy. He he's basically the trope of that happy sunshine character, but I also like try to make him more human, because I know people that are more sunshine, they are not always like that, and so I make them pretty, I don't know, I just insert a part of myself into each one of the characters to be invested first off, and then also making them more human. Like, I also give them like characteristics that are considered like gross, or like you know, more negative traits as well. Like I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, so like with my character Akihiko, he's the main character, and he's pretty, I don't know if I even showed this in the comic yet, but he's basically a sweaty gamer archetype, and you know that's a pretty negative thing you see in real life. So I put that into his character, and also put like cowardly into his character as well. So when it comes to characters, they're always developing in my head. So they change as the comic progresses, but I also have like a staple to keep them consistent. So I don't know. My character process is really weird, because this also hinders me from creating characters that I get invested in, because people are always like, oh, I have so many OCs, and I'm like, I have like 3. Because when I don't get invested and I don't put a part of myself into the character, I'm like, this character is boring. I'm never going to draw them again or develop them.
So something I kept hearing you say in that is like putting a part of yourself. Could you like explain a little bit more what you mean by like a part of yourself?
Like basically taking a part of your character or no, sorry, a part of your personality and then putting it to the character, or basing it off of a friend or something like that. Like just maybe it's the small things you do or how other people perceive you. That's how that's what I mean by putting a part of yourself into the character. Basically, like projecting, that's the word. Project onto your characters. That's a really good thing to do. That's basically what I mean. Like project your problems onto the characters. And I think that's what people do when they make OCs as well.
So another thing I wanted to hear about is what's it like working on a story with so many elements that take a longer period of time to unravel?
I tend to get ahead of myself sometimes when I do that, or because comics, I have a lot of things that I want to tell and unravel. But honestly, it gives me something to look forward to, because I'm also like a reader in that sense. I'm like, oh yes, I get to draw this episode where another character has a spotlight, and like that's a motivator for me, because I'm like, oh, this is gonna happen next. Then I get like really excited and pumped up to work.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about like the visuals for like all the stuff coming up around the fruit. Could you talk a little bit about how you came up with that?
I wanted to say this for so long. Okay, so the fruit that is talked about in my series is called Moto, and basically at first it was just based off the fruit yuzu, and it looks like the fruit, but it just has eyes on it. But I'm trying to think. Basically, I don't know where it came up from the idea. I don't know where the idea came up from, and a lot of people compare the whole drug thing to Banana Fish, and I'm like, I didn't even watch Banana Fish made my comic. Moto is something my friend came up with, and I was like, I need a weird name for this fruit, and so she was like, okay, this is a little not safe for work, but I'm gonna take the word condom and deconstruct it, and then it became bam, Moto. Yeah. I just think it's so funny because no one else knows that.
That is not where I thought that came from at all.
No, there was like zero thought put into the names.
Oh my gosh, yes. Wow.
Yep.
Speaking of lighthearted things, I wanted to hear you talk about your episode titles for a bit, because when I opened up the series for the first time and I saw all the titles, I was like, whoa, what's this gonna be about?
Titles have nothing to do with the actual story, and it's usually something stuck in my head or that I've been thinking about for a long time, and that's how I name the titles. And sometimes I even just ask friends, hey, what should I name the title? And so, for the titles, it's kind of a way for me to keep track of what I was thinking during that time, or like what was happening during that time. Because at first, the first title was just a copy pasta from like something I remembered back in middle school, like gimme chicken tendies, or something like that. And then it started becoming lyrics that were stuck in my head, and then it became TikTok titles. Because I had like a big time where I was really addicted to TikTok, but now I'm like, I hate TikTok. It's so annoying sometimes. But like most of the things are based around what's happening at the time, or what sound is trending on TikTok. Like I remember the exact moment where I found out school was closed because of COVID, and I named that like, where I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, I named it I really do got another week off. And like so it's kind of a way just to keep track of what was happening at the time, and they usually have nothing to do with the episode at all. Like the only one that had to do anything with the episode was when Dennis had to leave, and I said bye Dennis, and that's it. But for the most part, it's just usually something that was like a meme or something stuck in my head.
What's your favorite title, just to give people an idea of what the titles actually are? Because I don't think we explained what they look like.
I I think my favorite title.
I'll read a couple of examples while you look. We got Poggers, Fish Poggers. We got My BFF is Graduating in Roblox. We got Okay Boomer, of course. We got Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. We got a bunch of WAPs.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I think my favorite one is my most recent one. Swags means we're secretly we are gay. The only thing that annoys me sometimes is having fun titles is people end up focusing more on the titles than the actual episode, and I'm just like, damn, so much stuff happened in this episode, and you're just like, yeah, episode title.
Oh my gosh, yes, memes. I guess that's another Gen Z thing. We get the best memes.
Oh, but also, it's the whole thing with putting memes is as a title is I'm also showing how fast they die out, because if you read like the most earliest episodes, all these memes are like dead. But like I said, it's a good way to keep track of time.
Yeah,
it's
like, oh my gosh, like the Okay Boomer. Reading them.
Yeah, like that's dead. That's been like run down into the ground.
Or, oh my gosh, we got Thanks Obama, a classic. I'm just impressed with your titles. Okay, so we're on our last section. This time flew by very fast. I'm not sure how long we've talked about so much, but this is actually the shortest interview. I got some that are like almost like 3 hours.
I talk pretty fast, and then I have everything figured out. I try to do as many things as in little words as possible.
Mm. Oh yeah, definitely. I can feel your thoughtfulness. You sound very wise, much wiser than I.
No, it's just called growing up too fast.
Growing up too fast. Oh no.
Yeah.
So, Our final section is finishing advice. I don't think I said what the section was. So, do you have advice for working with others?
Honestly, don't take it too formally if you're just doing it for fun, because I think having fun with the process matters more than more than being too formal and stuff like that. I don't like formalities most of the time.
What do you mean by formally?
Like just being out of nowhere, like or just very structured things I don't particularly enjoy, like giving your writer like a deadline and then giving them specific things they need to write. I'm very loose on a lot of things, and I'm just like, hey, we need this done, but no pressure because I know you're busy too. Yeah, like stuff like that. Because I want it to be a good process for for the person working with me as well.
Yeah, it definitely helps to be considerate of others, and it's a really good skill to have. Like, I didn't get that until I pushed other people too far. Maybe I can make a video about that, but it's a life lesson to learn, people. So advice for creating art for Webtoon.
I think Webtoon is actually, I think the main reason I started doing Webtoon was to force myself to draw backgrounds and draw things that I usually don't like illustrate. So I think Webtoon can be a really good thing to make you, to push you outside your boundaries. Because before I did Webtoon, I just drew a bunch of character art, but now I'm forced to draw more backgrounds and then it makes you think problem solving more, because you're like, okay, I need this release soon. Let's see how many corners I can cut, but also keeping the original story. So I think it's a good problem solving type thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It also pushes me to do stuff like backgrounds. I hate backgrounds. I try to bullshit them as much as I can, but also it forces me to think more in 3D space, which is, like one of the top things that artists need to do whenever they're drawing something, thinking about it in 3D.
Oh, definitely. I didn't figure out how to do that until halfway through my sophomore year of college. So I don't even consider everything before then, besides learning proportion, like really helping me learn art until you learn 3D space. It's like probably the most underrated thing, that and perspective, because I guess they're really the same thing. Do you have any life advice?
If you've been planning a webtoon for like 2 or 3 years, just do it. For the love of God, just do it already. Like, I always, with the people that I talk to, they're like, they've been planning for a long time, and I'm just like, just do it. Just do it. You've been planning for so long. Because I think a lot of artists fall into this thing where they plan too much, and then it ends up never coming to be. So whatever you're thinking of now, just do it. Not anything negative, but like, if you're thinking of creating something, just do it, because who else is going to tell you to do it except for yourself?
Tell people where they can follow you. They can find you. They can stalk you. Don't stalk them. Don't do it.
Have Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. Follow me on Twitch. I stream like almost every night, but it's under the same handle of lemonwry or lemonwry. My Twitter account leads you to my main art account, but I don't ever talk on there. I just retweet my own art. If you want to, I don't even know how to explain my username. My username on Twitter right now is like Nanami Kento with a 0 at the end. But anyway, if you just go through my main Twitter account, you'll find it there, and that's where I'm most active.
And then really quickly.
Oh yeah, and also my webtoon Trail Mix in all capitals.
Yes, please go read the webtoon that we've been talking about for like an hour. Yeah. Maybe try doing that. And then because I don't really introduce myself in these videos, my name is Rochella. I have other videos. Of course I have other videos. I have other interviews on this channel that you guys can go check out. And I also talk a lot about webtoon and art in general. And I have a series called That Witch is My Sister, which you can check out. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bye!